Anyways, who knew that a film made in 1968 would resonate today? 68 would resonate still today in the 21st century. I want to introduce to you one of my favorite directors, and now we've got him here in Toronto because he is a permanent resident of Canada. Say hello to George A. Romero.
Thank you very much.
Did he catch that? I said 1968.
68. Oh, there was no sex in Night of the Living Dead. Just one nude. Only from behind.
So, I mean, this is incredible because this so many years since this film's been made, and it still resonates in the popular culture. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's amazing. I look back at this film and all I see are the errors that I made, basic filmmaking 101 errors. And I don't know. I mean, I can't believe that all these people are here to look at it again. It's a big. I never expected this would happen. I mean, when we made the film, it went out and played drive-ins and neighborhood theaters, and it actually returned money. And I was working on my third film before Night of the Living Dead became noticed and thought of as more than just a penny dreadful. And so it's still, I've been sort of reeling from that ever since. I don't quite understand it. I think some of the attention that it got was in error. I think it was thought of as a racial statement completely. And that's not what we were thinking at all when we were making the film. I mean, we were aware that we had cast an African American in the lead. And basically we were saying to ourselves, hey, it's 1968. We're over those prejudices. But apparently not. And Dwayne was much more sensitive, the actor was much more sensitive to that issue than I was, or than any of us were. But it wasn't meant to be purely a racial statement. And yet I believe that that's probably why it got most of its attention.
And at the end of the day, it was just because he was the best actor you found.
He was the best actor from among our friends, and that was it. And when we wrote the script, we wrote it we didn't write it for an African American. We wrote the guy. He was, minds, he was a white guy. And we didn't change the script. And I guess that's something, so maybe we get a little piece of credit for that, but that was it.
I mean, the other thing about the film is that when it came out is that it was just so serious in tone. And I mean, at the time we were talking about this, we did a little panel discussion for high school students yesterday here, and we were talking about how at that period, horror films were kind of, by the mainstream, was considered kiddie fare, because it was just like the memories of the Universal films. And it wasn't until years later after the release, the film got shuffled into like a matinee with a bunch of other kiddie horror films. And Ebert wrote a piece which was picked up by the Reader's Digest, where he went to go see one of these kid matinees, and the kids were having fun with the first film, but then when Night of the Living Dead came on, they were screaming and running and crying. And it was just like, look what your and so Reader's Digest picked up the story to go like, parents, look what your children are watching.
I know. We certainly didn't make it for those kids, but we did think it was. We just thought we were pushing the envelope a little bit, and again, because we never considered. We were angry. We were children of the '60s, and we thought that the anger that's in the film just came out of our attitudes, and really, that's what makes it so dark. The cynicism in the film and the anger of the filmmakers shows through. And I think that that's really what makes it very dark, among a few other things. But I don't know at what point those children went running out. But maybe it was around the time when the zombies start eating guts. I didn't think of them as zombies, by the way. I didn't call them zombies.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Someone asked the other day, said that really in your films the word zombie is rarely used, and if it's used, it's in jest, and you don't actually consider your characters as zombies.
Well, I didn't. I've sort of accepted that. The first film, I didn't think they were zombies, because zombies, first of all, aren't dead. Traditional zombies, they're given this oakish powder or some cocktail to make them subservient, make them slaves for Lugosi or whoever's running the farm. And they weren't dead, so I thought I was doing something new by saying, well, wait, what would happen if the dead stopped staying dead and just came back to life? And they don't dig their way out of graves. They would be too weak to do that. They don't eat brains. My zombies have never eaten brains. They're too weak to crack skulls. I don't know where a lot of these things go. You pointed out that Return of the Living Dead maybe was the whole start of the brain-eating business. But I just never thought of them as zombies, never called them zombies, never thought of them as zombies, until way after, 10 years later, when I finally agreed to make a second film. I gave up. And this is after much had been written about Night of the Living Dead, and they'd been called zombies by basically everybody in the world. So I said, okay, I'll call them zombies. And I did, finally, in the second film. And someone noticed that, I think only one other time in Survival of the Dead, Dennis Hopper does a line where he says, zombies, man, they creep me out. And that may be the only other time that I use the word. I'm always looking for something else to call them. Anybody have some ideas?
Ghouls?
Ghouls. Well, like ghouls. We called them ghouls in the first film, yeah. Undead, I know, but those are all sort of...
Not walkers. Not walkers. Fighters. Republicans. There we go. I think we have a winner.
Romneys.
All right. Thank you very much, George.
Thank you, Colin.